It's a serious escape. You follow conclusions in your mind, and yet you're comparing the things that you've been doing and the vision that you've been expecting yourself to be following into places that are not so very known to you because you're comparing them. You're finding that there are aspects and visions of thought flow that doesn't really compute with the things that you had in mind at first. So certainly the action to take, one would think, is more vivid. The expression is just more vivid. The timing is also just more vivid. You can flow as much as you want, thinking about the things that you enjoy, the way you walk and move your body, how you are seeing into things, and setting that to be an okay way to express the things that are in alignment for you to have. Naturally, you are winning onto it. You are finding that these distinctions are just much more visual, much more in flow. The timing is to have it, to get this sensation in mind that things are coming to the point that they would accept themselves for you. It's not as much as of a doing action, it just happens because you're more aligned to it. And you've been doing the work thinking that you're not getting there. But the work has just put you into place, a place where you can absorb. And that's easy to take for granted. It's easy to take for granted the easiness, right? The easiness of how some things can become, how some things can be for you, if you just allow yourself to be where you're supposed to be. So sometimes I imagine that there are some conclusions of mind, of thought, expressions that are just much more to do with how we are uncovering things together, like how we are forming things together when we are with our friends, families, and the strangers that we meet at places of social activity like clubs, bars, stores, and so on and so forth, right? And you find that these instances of management with your energies is just a part of becoming. Thinking to yourself that there is a decision to have here, a likeliness and a field of thought that just flows normally because there's a way to ascertain these things because they are just computed that way. They're incessant to be known. They really are. And as much as you find that continually when you're growing, as you're expressing yourself, as you're moving yourself to talk about these happenstances, the flow that you like, and the vision that that brings for you, as much as you're doing that and coming together to understand that this undertaking, this movement of yourself, is another way to become. To try to see how the depth of your own mind, your own setting, just pleases you. And that's not a foregone conclusion, as much as one might think. It's a product of your mentality ascertaining that this is how it is. When there's been so many questions, when there's been so much doubt, now you're finding that here are you. All right. The distinction of this to otherness, the flowing of things being a bit strange, a bit unaware. The finding of that can be concluded with a lot of actions, a lot of thought actions, but not as much presence. Being here and actually doing the actions, and actually producing, something that you can touch in one or another kind of way, something that you or another can touch in one or another kind of way. And because that's how we see things, how we are introducing these things to our life, as much as we do introduce them to our life, then we're finding that these ideas that are distinctive and they come together and they remove us from unsanctified movements that are not to be done for us, but yet are here. Where are we when that happens? Because the intellect is always moving towards something. You have these ruminating thoughts just flowing, growing inside of you and trying to just blossom into this action. But yet, you forget that what you've left behind you in your path forward are a lot of things that you can pick up, which are already perfect in their own sense. Even if you have your thoughts trying to tell you to move forward towards something, your presence, the path that you walked, with the things that you left behind you, those things can be brought upon as complete forms. Complete forms that can be used in, well, multiple ways of visualization for other people and yourself. Because you can cascade yourself into the background as much as you're cascading yourself into the foreground. And the background is also a place to bring about things to happen, things to show, to deliver, and, entertain. Moving there, realizing that that's a choice, that's an action, that's something to take hold of, because it's freeing. It has this level-headedness to it that can be seen from above ground, where you're not that deep into rumination for a while. Instead, you're presenting what you have been ruminating on, more or less. And I do find, yet, as much as I find things, as much as I flow into things and realize that these things that I'm doing today are protected by my feelings of them. Since even when I'm tired and I'm telling myself that I don't want to do so much today, I want to be present in a state where there's not much to give. There's just an enjoyment of being here in this sense right now and not touching upon anything else. Then clarity comes. Finding that clarity because of that meaning that I've had and imbued within myself to follow up upon things that are much more giving to me. And that is the setting. The visualizing aspect of the novelty that's just much more moving than the otherness that we didn't know for. To have that is to give. To see that is to sense. To find that bountiful and much more reactive than these things can be telling. And without any likelihood, to see these things and giving it a place to be free, then what are we seeing? Not much, I would say, other than confusion, other than otherness. The beauty in this aspect, in these thoughts, to take hold of the choices that are yours, to be unbounded by the freedom that you didn't know, is telling you that it's here, has been telling you that it's here, is to communicate that to yourself and to your space. As the environment grows, and I do find that many of us like the solitude, right? We want to work in solitude. We don't want to express our celebration to another. We are quiet within that. Though there is something about celebrating with other people together, to share your celebrations in any way, shape, or form, but with other people. It expands you away from your soul room where you hold yourself into the world. First your local climate, and then national, and then global. It moves within expansion. As much as we like to be solitary with the things that we do, because we are, because of a lack of a better word, attacked by other people's celebration. And of course we celebrate together with them. We are happy for them and we enjoy it. But they are also asking to be happy for you. To find what are you celebrating about? What made you so happy today? What are you working on so deeply that is not being expressed, that is not being viewed for them? Because it can be seen that you are ruminating on something important and you've been doing it for years, but telling yourself that not yet, it's not time, because you're afraid, obviously, that you will meet opposition, yet that opposition will temper you and make you stronger. You have to believe in your beliefs, that even with the opposition that you will meet, because you will, especially if what you believe is very unique, it stands out. Of course, you'll have supporters, but you will also meet opposition, and the opposition is what you're afraid of. The specific opposition that you have this doubt in your mind, this inkling that it will make you stop. Yet the only thing making you stop is by not expanding it into the world that you have to engage with. And we have these limiting ways of thinking that, oh, if I start talking about this, I won't talk about anything else. So what? This is your path, this is your journey, this is what you want to do. Some might even say this is what defines you as you, because you've been here for so long in your own mind. But have you expanded it away from your mind into space, into locality, so people can find it and ask questions, because they will be curious? And that curiosity might seem like opposition sometimes, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a supportive hand. And even if it isn't supportive, you're supporting yourself by creating what you speak. Not only creating what you think inside of your own little cave, but expanding it into the world so that your creation can be seen in its full splendor, not only in a small form. Visualizing that and comparing that to how you've been directly, and finding then that it's sensible, as most would often say to themselves many times, that how will it ever be known unless I say so, unless I give reason for others to hear that it is so? Because you are saying it is so to yourself, even when you doubt yourself at times. But that's the subject matter. It's the ask. It's the actual question in you. Yet it's not getting out as much as it could. Expansion. Finding reason to bring more people inside of this world that you find so bountiful. World as an artist that gives you so much reason to live and be passionate about life. Isn't that something that should be shared, don't you think? Something that should be expressed, don't you think? Something that once you return to it often enough, you will find that it's very moving, it's very giving, it's very apt to be just that. And completely undependent on you, except for the part where you open your mouth and speak it. Because it aligns itself with you. And it has been on the path, on the journey of doing that. And as you look at your background, you see that there are a lot of things that in their so-called incomplete form, as you would say it, the essence of what it is in itself is complete. It needs no changing, because the changing will happen further on. But what you're showing of your process The process in itself, being a process, is complete. So there's no problem. There's no confusion, really. And this doesn't just stand on the shoulders of people that have been doing this for years, being an artist for years, being a creative for years, working for years. It also stands on the newly acquired ones, the ones that have newly acquired the vision, the mindset that is telling them, this is where I want to grow. This is how I want to become. This is who I feel I am today. And I want to see what that tells me as I move on further into space. And it is a joy, as many would say, to share. To share something that you actually believe in. Because that guides you away from any doubt that you might have of yourself. And the more you do it, the more you allow these reasons to be so, then there's no coming back. And that's beautiful. To always be moving forward into the unknown, where the questions, the asking, is part of your tempering as well, part of your processing into a form that can be seen, it can be beholden to you, and then to others. Defining it is quite an action, isn't it? It's quite an ask. You're telling yourself that these details of yours, the management of it, the cascading form to groove into and get a way for you to motion these expressions, placing them into the great fold by returning and seeing that it's distinct. It has meaning. It has the choice of yours to be, of yours to guide and feel free by directly moving and telling that if there's no other, if there's only this, then you have the why you were looking for. It's the ask in itself. So do look at your question, because it's here, always been here, and see, what do you find when you speak of it? A bit louder, not only a whisper, a bit louder so others can hear it, so they can come along and ask, oppose, support, all of that. And then you only find that there was no mystery. There was always this window opening and you peering through it to look at yourself and see that this actually does guide me forward. And it would be telling of me to try and do something else, to define something else and see the meaning in ways that must kind of seem like it has nothing to it, so that there's no change to it as we are forming it in our own separate ways, but shared in our drive. It's a kindling of thought, usually, because there's no much to say to the mentality of being here together with another and taking hold of what they can know to give something of specificity unique to you. Whereas if you don't, then the ask would stay. When am I going to do this? Really, when? Am I waiting for a summer day when the weather is nice. So I have the correct feelings within my body. The flowing energy is feeling unobstructed by anything. Is that the weight? What about the days when we want to see these other dynamics of your emotions and want to hear how to progress when we're feeling that ourselves? We that listen to you, that would listen to you when you speak. Either as opposers because we're finding something very wrong, but it touches us and we're engaged. Or we that are finding something very right and it also touches us and we're engaged for that reason. When? When will we hear about how to deal with these other structures of mind? Going on to the path that you've been on. A guiding light is talked about in so many stories. We all know of it. We've heard of it since we were children, and we will be hearing it until we're very old. Some would say it's a story as old as time. And it probably is. I think that as we talk about our own self and the topics that mean the self that is heard when the mind is quiet, that self, when we're talking about that in a more expanded way, and people can find a place to embark from when they're curious about finding change in their life.